Howdy, I'm Grey Pilgrim. Well, I was watching YouTube the other day. Actually, I think it was today. And I saw a guy who goes by Runkle of the Old Bailey. Or the Bailey, I mean. Well, Runkle is doing his nickname online is a takeoff on, there's a novel by a guy named John Mortimer. I think they made a British television series out of it too, called Runkle of the Old Bailey. And it plays a barrister in London, in the Old Bailey, which was the criminal court in downtown London. Anyway, Runkle's a Canadian lawyer, but he mainly concentrates on what we call 2A rights, or gun rights, and civil rights in Canada itself. And he does a pretty good job of it. He mentioned that he went to some kind of a seminar or something, and a fellow was demonstrating how, well, what Alec Baldwin did with his famous shoot was totally an accident. that a single action army, this is a single action army, this is an Army San Marcos in 3220. Oh, and this one is a Cimarron in 45. Both are quite empty. No rounds here. Anyway, the fellow was demonstrating to him how to unload this thing or manipulate it. What you would do is put it to full cock, because this is a single action. Then put your thumb on the hammer and grab the trigger to drop things. And if you did this sequence just a little bit wrong, you could have a problem with a live round. Well, that is not what Alec Baldwin did. I wish I could see the video of him doing it, because I'm sure it was caught on camera. But no, his lawyers are really good and won't ever allow that to get out, actual evidence. What this guy was demonstrating was what I would like to refer to as bovine scatology. It was not what happened. What happened was Baldwin was not exercising proper gun safety. He did not put it into half cock, say, oh yeah, I've got a round in here. Drop it out. Oh, look, that's a live round. What the hell's going on? And then yell at his armorer about that. No, he was just dinking around with a loaded gun, like any other absolute idiot who plays with guns. If you are going to use firearms in Hollywood or on the range or here in my gun room, you know gun safety, you know the proper rules. And one of the rules is you keep your finger off the trigger till your eye is on the target. And yeah, his eye was on the target, the camera and the cinematographer, which he ended up shooting. I think, well, my speculation is they had some kind of issue between them, and this was his satisfying his difficulty with her. But that's just me. I would never accuse him of that publicly, because he's got too many lawyers and too many friends and too many high places. Baldwin is a staunch anti-gun sort, though he makes westerns. Go figure. He starred in several films in which guns played a prominent part. I think he did the 1904, he did The Shadow, and in that one, The Shadow goes bang, 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 bang with 45s. In Hunt for Red October, he's shooting away at the Russian guy with a 45. He should know guns. He may not know guns, but he should know guns. And I'm sure he's been trained by competent armorers. He was hiring a cut rate one for this movie of his because he was cutting corners, some of the corners he should not have cut. And obviously gun safety was one he had not cut, or had cut too bad. It just, the whole thing was a tragedy. And I am saying, given the evidence, it was a tragedy. It wasn't a planned event. But no, the expert who spoke at the seminar that Runkle went to was an idiot, total idiot. There are just so many ways you could screw up with the single action army, and Baldwin screwed up in one of the worst. Well, anyway, that's the one thing I wanted to talk about. The other thing was this book I've been reading lately. This is a weird book. It's called The Baron Trump Omnibus, and this is actually a collection of smaller books, and they're called The Little Baron Trump and His Wonderful Dog Bulger, and Baron Trump's Marvelous Underground Journey. And he included a little short one of his called The Last President for 1900. And I find it quite interesting, that last one, because I was reading it last night, and let me read you the first line of the first chapter of the thing. 325, as I recall. Yeah, this is it. This was written about 1890 something. That was a terrible night for the great city of New York, the night of Tuesday, November 3rd, 1896. The city staggered under the blow like a huge ocean liner which plunged full speed with a terrible crash into a mighty iceberg, and recoiled shattered and trembling like an aspen. He wrote that a decade and a half or 2 decades before the Titanic. Ingersoll Lockwood, the author of this, well, he was pretty prophetic. I mean, he calls his character in this novel, these are children's books. The last one is not, but these two are children's books. The last one is more speculative or science fiction sort of story. But the other two are fanciful stories of a young child taking an adventure underground. And it's just an interesting series of kids' books of the late 19th century. But Baron Trump, and in the stories in the second book, Baron Trump gets elected president. And Baron Trump happens to be the name of Donald Trump's kid. Weird that. There's a lot of little things in here too that are quite prophetic. But one thing about that last one, the 1900 thing, I don't know if you're familiar with the election of 1896, but it involved William Jennings Bryan and William McKinley fighting it out. McKinley was the Republican, and William Jennings Bryan was the Democrat / Progressive Party candidate. It was 2 different parties, but they both backed him. And the main thing of that election was that we had just come out of a bad recession, and it was the end period of the what they call the Gilded Age. The big money magnates, the trusts, Carnegie and Rockefeller and J.P. Morgan and people like that. Well, at the time, the dollar was backed by gold, and Bryant, a lot of people were broke at the time, and Bryant was stressing that we should switch over and back this currency with silver, because we did have a lot of silver. But silver, well, it's worth a hell of a lot less than gold, but it's also the gold standard was a standard, and everybody realized what it was, and so many dollars equals so many ounces of gold. I think it worked out at the time to like $13 per ounce or something like that. Maybe it was $20 per ounce, I forget. Yeah, because it was a $20 gold piece, they called it. Yeah, $20 an ounce. Well, back then, $20 was $20. I mean, back then, a laborer would earn, what, $1 a day? Something like that. But there were a lot of poor farmers' kids and miners and sharecroppers in the South and Western types who all needed money, and they didn't have money. So they were clamoring for it. Unfortunately, the progressives also included people like socialists, communists, anarchists, people who were just let's burn the whole thing down sort of people. And it got to be a bit icky, to say the word. Well, anyway, in this story, Lockwood predicted that Bryant won, that McKinley lost. Had Bryant won, and this is quite good because had he won, it probably would have resulted in mass riots, a total destruction of the economy, and it could have ended up with a martial law and a tyranny that lasted forever, which would be the last president. And that's the storyline of this, is that basically we have nothing after that. As it was, McKinley won, and we survived. I mean, McKinley didn't. His second term after he won the election, he was assassinated by an anarchist. Excuse me. But then Theodore Roosevelt became president. He was the vice president. But interesting novel, a series of novels. I would highly recommend reading these. It's a really interesting read. But anyway, that and Runkle of the Bailey, story on single action armies. God, what is with this throat of mine? I guess it's the weather has changed things a bit. Anyway, these things with the single action armies, don't believe the experts. Believe your own lying eyes. Alec Baldwin is a jerk and an egotist, and I hear he's a terrible man to work with. And, you know, and he ended up killing a woman, you know, and that's just that. Anyway, happy trails.